Hey my ducks, it's Simon here. Welcome back to the Hermit's Cave. How is everybody doing today? It's Sunday. It's my last day off work after 25 days. I've had 3.5 weeks off, which has been lovely, but I am ready now. Ready to go back to work. So I'm making the most of the last day. I've been out, been to the barbers, been out to coffee in town, just come back, and before I settle for the afternoon, under my plug-in heated blanket, because it is freezing in the UK at the moment. Many places are covered with snow. We're not too bad here. Yeah, so before I snuggle down and watch something on Netflix, I thought I would jump on, as promised, and have a look at this deck that was a gift from Robin at Toadstool Tarot. He passed this to me when we met up in New York a couple of weeks ago. I love this. It's like a felt cloth, but it's got this lovely long wraparound piece here where you can lay at least 3 cards for a 3-card spread. I haven't opened this yet. You know what it's like with Christmas and everything else. It's been a lot, but I wanted to kind of give a first impressions. Now, I did say that I had this one, so I reviewed it from Dark Cinema and passed it on. But I've looked back through my videos, and I think it is a different deck that I was thinking of, because I haven't reviewed this. It wasn't sent. I have reviewed decks by Dark Cinema before. However, I do remember having an online coffee with the lovely Elaine, Tarot Tats and Tea, Elaine, and we talked about this deck and she showed it, and I don't think she was too impressed with it. I think from what Robin has said, this is the 3rd version now, the 3rd edition, I should say. And I believe some improvements have been made. So we will have a look. It is the Manuscript of Initiations Tarot. And as I said, it's the 3rd version, 3rd edition. I keep saying version, 3rd edition. So obviously it's popular, because you wouldn't make new editions if there wasn't the call for it. Dark Cinema are a company based in Ukraine. What's this? Oh, this says returned goods. Set of tarot card samples, returned goods. So I'm not sure why they were returned, whether there's a fault but we will see. I know Robin bought 4 copies of this. He loved it that much. He bought 4 copies and has a couple of backups himself. So I'm not going to read all the blurb on the back, but obviously the Manuscripts of Initiations Tarot takes ephemera and images from ancient manuscripts, from the Middle Eastern period, and, you know, from the Bible, from the Quran, from other mystical manuscripts. So I mean, one thing I did know about them is their cardstock is usually very thin. We're starting with Justice, and they're not in any order, I see. I mean, it was a returned deck. Backs have improved. They're quite pretty. I mean, it's not the thickest cardstock, but it's not the thinnest either. Let me compare it with a standard tarot. Yeah, you can tell the difference here. This is a standard tarot deck, US Games. So you get an idea of a little bit about the quality. It's a tote box. We do get quite a chunky little white book. It's in multiple languages. So Page of Pentacles, pretty generic by all accounts, but I don't tend to read these. It would have been interesting for them to give you some. Oh, these are the 2. I'm not going to look at them. Plague and Hunger are 2 additional cards that Robin said he'd be interested in my thoughts on. So without reading what they've had to say, yeah, it would have been nice if, so they're calling it the Last Judgment, change of position, renewal and outcome, reverse it. So it's just keywords. But it would have been nice to hear a little bit about the cards and the manuscript, or where the artwork's taken from. I'm going to obviously pause and put this into order because it's not in order. 7, 8, no, it's not in order at all. So yeah, I'll pause the video. Okay, they're all in order. I'm just gonna have a sup of coffee. I've got my little, I don't know if you can see, my Empire State Building with King Kong hanging on the side. I saw this mug in the Empire State Building, I had to buy it. Anyway, yeah, I'm just looking at these backs. These are really beautiful. So the original backs on the deck weren't like this. This is really nice. I like that. And although the cardstock is thin, there is a springiness to them. I do like mine a little bit thicker than this, just because I'm a overhand shuffler and I'm quite rough, and thinner cardstock tends to get damaged fairly easily. The good thing about, because I always get a little bit worried when cards aren't in order, particularly with that saying that it was a returned product, whether all the cards are going to be there or whether they're going to be damaged. But the good thing by putting these into order is that I was able to see that there's no cards missing, and as far as I can see, the cards are in really good condition. So yeah, so that's great. What I was also able to pick up on, and you'll see, is that the suits are quite pippish. There are illustrations on there, which is in keeping with the ephemera and things that you see throughout the deck. But the majors are more ornate, more picturesque than the minors. But let's have a look together. So here we have our full card. I love the little extra bits on here. We've got the manuscript image here, the artwork from the manuscript with somebody carrying pails of water. We've got the bird in the tree, off on a journey. There is a dog. Does kind of look like a ford, not on the edge of a cliff or mountain or anything like that, but it does look like the fall that we would associate. We've also got a little bit of a jester type fall here, but I love these little these hairs up at the top as well. In terms of size, I think they're pretty standard. A little bit narrower, about the same size as a US Games standard tarot, but they are thinner, a little bit narrower. Here's our magician. I've seen this owl somewhere before. I think this probably appears in another medieval type deck, maybe Serpent and Peacock, but I've certainly seen that owl before. He's standing on a fish. It's like using the fish as a boat. What I will say is, and I know it was a complaint of many before about the manuscript text not being, you know, that it was illegible. I don't think it's meant for that purpose, because even, let's see if I've got one to hand, even under a magnifying glass, there is no way you're seeing that. And I actually think this is written in Arabic anyway, so I think it's there just to illustrate that it's taken from ancient text. Here's our High Priestess. She's beautiful. I love the moon. I do kind of wish this image was a little bit bigger. I mean, it's kind of like scrapbook arrangement, isn't it? Our Empress. Got the roots here of the trees. Our Emperor. I love this red. Very rich. The Hierophant is quite religious. Is this supposed to be Jonah? That's the, I mean, medieval artwork is generally religious based anyway. Wow, look at this. This is beautiful. I love the lovers. The serpent here, you got the tree of knowledge, and I guess this is potentially Adam and Eve. I love the hare playing a flute. Beautiful. Chariot. They like the hares in this deck, which is a bonus for me because I love hares. Strength. Oh, notice what I've done. Automatically, I've just put this. I wasn't looking at the numbers. And I've put it as 8. I am so RWS. But it's 11, but that's okay. And then we have 9, which is our hermit. This is a great image. Yeah, the only thing I would say is, and I get we've got all the little extra bits, but I'd love the main image just to be a little bit larger. I've also seen this image before, but I guess if you're a deck creator and you're creating medieval style decks and you're looking for something quite specific, like a wheel to represent the Wheel of Fortune, you're going to be quite limited on the pre-existing artwork that's available out there. So then I put Justice, which is 8 in this deck, here in key 11 position. We have the Hanged Man hanging here from the tree. It very much in a Hanged Man position. The hare here has a bow and arrow. Is he going to try and get that bird? Death. Again, a lot of these images are very familiar. Wow, look at this. Is it a wolf? A fox? I think it might be a fox biting the head off this, what looks like a goose, I think. Temperance. I mean, the cards are really, really beautiful. They are. I can see why Robin likes the deck so much. The Devil, yeah, seen this little guy before. Great Devil card. It's like the hair here is decapitating somebody. We've got some bats. The Aurora Boreal. Can't even say it now. Aurora Borealis. The Tower. Beautiful tower. Look at the detail in that. We have the Star. She's bathing. She's very pale. The Moon. The Sun. It's a beautiful image. Lovely, vibrant colours. Judgment. And we have the World. They look more like bunny rabbits than hares there. Look at this. Love it. Yeah, so there are 2 additional cards. So it's a 23, we're not counting the Fool. So 24 major arcana. And they're not just additional cards that are unnumbered, they're actually factored in to the major arcana. So the first one we have is Hunger, and then we have Plague. And Robin's challenge really when we met up was how we would read Hunger or Plague in a tarot reading. Plague gave me a little bit more food for thought. I had to kind of think about that a little bit, but Hunger I found quite easily, and I'll tell you for why. That's because Hunger, as many of you know, I became a Buddhist in 2003, and in the Soka Gakkai school of Buddhism, we have the 10 worlds, and one of the worlds is the world of hunger. Now, in other Buddhist schools, it's referred to as hungry ghosts. So if you are familiar with Buddhism, you might be familiar more with hungry ghosts, but we had the world of hunger. And there's, like everything in those worlds, and like everything in life, there is a duality. So there is like yin and yang, there is opposites for each life state. So in terms of a kind of more shadow aspect or a negative aspect, or what they'd refer to in Buddhism as a suffering, the hunger would be that insatiable desire for something that would have a negative effect on you. So an insatiable desire for food, so overeating, an insatiable desire for power, or for wealth, or for pleasure. Now, pleasure isn't a negative thing. I don't believe that for a second, but it can be excessive, and the hunger part of that is, you know, like we were trying to obtain wealth or power. When is enough enough? And if you've got that hunger, sometimes it's very hard to fill that hunger. So in a reading, if hunger was to come up, and again, it depends in the position in the reading or what the querent is asking about, that's some aspects. But then on a positive, hunger is in the 10 worlds is a driving force for good, a driving force for human activity. So hunger is necessary for survival, for example. We listen to our bodies, and when we feel hungry, we then, if you think back to being in primitive times, we'd go out and we'd hunt or we'd forage. So it's a driving force for survival, but also it's a driving force for motivation, motivation to do well. So again, thinking of those things that are often referred to as suffering, when you've got that insatiable desire for food, power, wealth, pleasure, there's also a motivation to do well for yourself. So, you know, to be successful, to obtain enough, to sustain a healthy lifestyle, a comfortable lifestyle. But it can also be a hunger that drives that motivation to help others. So it could be that, you know, you see an injustice and you have that hunger and that desire to fight that injustice, or to help somebody who's going through an injustice or is in a state of suffering. So that's how I would read the hunger card, and again, depending on where it is in the reading and what the querent is asking, but that's kind of those aspects that I would draw upon, really. Plague. I understood Robin's kind of, you know, hesitance with this about, you know, in a reading, how would you read for somebody when plague comes up? Again, there's positives and negatives. We'll start with positives this time for plague, because that's always the hardest. How do you see a positive in a plague? But we have to think back to what we've been through in recent years, and a plague as well can result in transformation, or like a renewal. You know, it's the end of an old cycle, clearing away space for new beginnings. It's that purification process, purging toxins. It builds resilience. That's something that comes out of a plague. You know, we develop our immunity towards viruses and things like that. One of the positives for me going through something like the pandemic was as a community, our collective, you know, was all weathering the same storm. And as I said at the time, doing the live streams, the quarantine streams, we're all suffering the same storm, but we're all in our individual boats. We're not all in the same boat. Some people are locked in with families, some people are locked in on their own, like I was. But there was that coming together as a community, both in your local communities with volunteers going out, making sure everybody got food, making sure people were looked after. There was the coming together globally through, you know, we saw a huge surge forward in things like Microsoft Teams. I'm trying to think of what the other one's called, beginning with an S, but it's gone out of my head. There's Zoom, and you know, all those kind of ways to connect virtually. So plague, the positives is that sort of transformation, that purification, the purging of toxin, the building of resilience, and that sort of sense of coming together. Obviously, there's a negative to plague, and you really need me to say what they are. You know, total widespread disruption, the dis-ease, and yeah, obviously disease, but the dis-ease. We experience loss. We experience grief because of that loss. There was isolation, as well as just the sort of decline and decay that a plague can cause. So again, positives and negatives. So that's potentially, again, depending on where the card falls and who's asking the question and what the question is, that's some ways to read the card. So I hope that helps. All right, so you'll see the difference now. The minors have less of a central image, although some do, like the courts. But I still really like them. They're not as ornate or decorative as the majors, but still really nice. So we'll go through these a little bit more quickly. So we've got our Ace of Cups. Look at this guy. Talk about having your head up your own arse. This is a beautiful card. I really like this. Our Two of Cups. 3. Well, disregard what I said about not having a central image. These ones seem to, but quite a few don't a bit later on. There's our little hare again. Not quite sure what this guy is. Is he a cat? The 5. Our 6. So you can see they are quite pippish, but there are, I mean, this is lovely, isn't it, when we think of the Six of Cups, playing a little ukulele there. 7, 8, 9. Oh, he's like half fish, half animal. That's interesting. 10. And then we have our regular page knight, queen and king. There's no changes. There's our knight. And our wands. This tends to be more how the minors are. The Ace of Wands, the hand coming out of the clouds. 2. 3. I mean, I can't really relay these to the RWS, but it's not purporting to be an RWS. It's quite stripped back. You can just see the kind of text faintly in the background there. It appears stronger in some more than others. I really love the hairs in this deck. It's really kind of adding a little extra for me. It's got spurs on. When a knight wore his spurs in the stories of old. Swords. Oh wow, look at that balancing on the tip. Little Humpty Dumpty type character. Yeah, there's lots of animal mashups. Very interesting 5. The dueling. It's very colourful. And our final suit is the coins. Got that balance of the two. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's clearly not an RWS because you know, we've got the strength at 11 rather than 8, but there's still some nods to the RWS, but not enough for, you know, for the creators to say that this is an RWS deck, or for us to hold them to account of it being an RWS deck. This image is fantastic. Oh, I thought it was the same character then. The 9. Again, nod to the RWS. 10. I love that peep into the kitchen. Little monkeys on top. So there you go. That's the Manuscript of Initiations Tarot by Dark Cineva. Actually, I'm pleasantly surprised. I think it's quite a beautiful deck. If I had any criticism, it would just be on the cardstock, because, you know, you can tell just by the thickness of it. This is a thin deck. I don't want to bend it too much because I'll be, although it's springy. If this was on a nice thick cardstock, I think I would really enjoy, you know, shuffling it, using it. I will use it, and it's a gift, and I always cherish gifts that are sent. This is lovely and smooth. Feels like almost like plastic. It's really smooth. So the cardstock is, you know, it's not cheap cardstock. It's not like cardboard. It's just a little bit thin for my liking, but pleasantly surprised by the artwork. Really, really nice. Yeah, thank you, Robin, for sending it to me. I hope I answered your question in terms of talking about the famine, not the famine, what was it? The hunger card and the plague card. Feel free to add your thoughts as well, if you're watching this, how you would interpret those two additional major arcana cards. It'd be lovely to hear your thoughts. Yeah, and until next time, go in peace. Namaste and blessed be.